Okay.
We're sitting here in front of Hooters, which is the center of the motorcycling universe. For those of you who don't know,
if you didn't know, you should know. It's very important. That's motorcycling 101, actually.
When you get your motorcycle, you may ask the dealer, "What do I do? How should I best enjoy my motorcycle?" And most of them will tell you, well, most people go to Hooters.
Most people go to Hooters, that's right. I actually heard now if you go buy a brand new Harley, you get like a $50 Hooters gift card.
Well, that would help you.
I think that's a good start.
At least for 1 week.
Yeah, that's 1 weekend's worth maybe.
Yeah.
For one person. Now, if you're married, you actually have to buy matching Harley so you both get a gift card.
So anyway, we're checking out the scene here in front of Hooters.
A lot of clean bikes.
I think they spend a lot of time making sure they're clean.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. You know, you don't want to take a dirty bike because God, you get laughed at or something.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we could talk about how we got into riding, or we can talk about riding out west, or we can talk about how we decided we wanted to ride out west.
Let's talk about riding out west.
Okay.
Somebody wanted some information about riding out west, and that might be a good opportunity.
Okay.
Tell me about your trip, since yours is older than mine. I think.
Okay. I went several summers ago. Now, I don't remember how many years ago it was, but I'd known that I wanted to take a good long trip, and I knew that I wanted to get out west, and my goal was to try and take all the southernmost states and then loop around through California and come up the states that border those and pretty much get the bottom half of the country completed.
Yeah.
So I took 9 days to do it, which is really cooking if you try and get to California in 9 days and back, as we found out. But planned the time off, planned ahead, and I took a buddy of mine with me. So you know Brandon.
Yep.
Little Brandon.
Yep.
Little Brandon went with me on an old Honda 450. You know, and Brandon always takes the craziest stuff on the road trip. If you don't know Brandon, he's at I think flyinshoes.blogspot.com. Really good guy. Really good rider, builds cool bikes, does cool motorcycle stuff, so you should check him out too. But we decided we were going to go. We met at Krispy Kreme Donuts in Hoover at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and we set out. And our plan was to ride out and camp as much as we could, and only get hotels when we absolutely had to. So the first day we got on and we were on only back roads.
Right.
We didn't want to do any of the super slab. So we got out the first day, and we cooked it. We made it from Birmingham to Paris, Texas, on back roads the first day, which is a pretty good stretch.
Yeah.
So we had really been trying to shoot for this campsite, and I don't remember, we ran into a couple campsites that were under construction or that weren't open, but we ended up getting into Paris, and we passed the campsite, or got to the campsite, and it wasn't available. So well, let's go get a hotel room. So we found a place there was a hotel room that had a Chinese buffet next door and a gas station where we could get cold beer. And so we got our room and went and got Chinese food and went and got beer and came back in, and we ended up just sitting and watching TV, and Brandon got out his camp stove and started making hot tea on the outside patio, and he kept making hot tea. And I was like, man, what's with all the hot tea? And he didn't tell me this, but he had like a 101 degree fever that morning before we left. So I always thought that was really interesting. And another interesting side note was we turned on the TV and started flipping channels, and Jaws had just started, and he'd never seen Jaws. So we watched Jaws, and he drank hot tea and I drank cold beer, and we had a good night. But we got up the next day, and we pretty much went straight across Texas, which riding across Texas, I don't know if riding through Texas is awesome. It's really cool. The roads are really cool. Drivers are so considerate of motorcycles out there and of other traffic. It's the only place I've ever been where every single car that I got behind to pass immediately got over. Because they have those shoulders there.
They have unusual shoulders, almost like another lane.
Yes.
And it's the first time I went out there, it was a shocker, just because it's like, what universe have I warped into here? Mm-hmm. And like you said, the courtesy.
Yeah, it was outstanding and kind of unreal.
Yeah.
So we kept cooking along, and we stopped at a couple of cool roadside spots, which all the stereotypical "Welcome to Texas" signs had bullet holes all through them. We stopped at a couple of places that they were just really neat, and we started getting really kind of into the whole what you think of in your head as being the West. You know, because when I think of the being out west in my head, I think of old Clint Eastwood movies where everything's just dry and barren, and we started kind of getting into that territory. And one of the things I really remember is out in that area in the few 3 days we camped out in Oasis State Park in New Mexico, and we both hammock camped. So there are not many trees in the desert.
Right.
We got there and
that was your first experience with the lack of trees and hammocks.
In hammocks, yeah.
Okay.
So we got out to the state park and we kind of rode around looking for the best place, and we found one campsite that had one tree. It had one tree and one of those big metal picnic tables. And so what we did was we moved the picnic table to where we kind of made a triangle, tree here, both ends of the picnic table, and we both went from the same tree to the opposite ends of the picnic table, which was kind of cool.
And the tree was mesquite, probably.
It was
about this big.
We were lucky to have both been able to hang off of that tree and the picnic table. But that's when I really got all my my camping gear out and started getting it used. Now, when I got ready for this trip, I really over-prepared. I found on this great customizable motorcycle camping list online that you can kind of click and make it where you have double check, so you can check it when you leave, check it when you come back in, and repack it. Because I keep all my stuff packed and ready to go.
Yeah.
Because you never know who might call you at a moment's notice and say, "Let's ride to where the F ever,"
Right.
and then you got to go.
Right.
So yeah,
it's a rule.
It's mandatory. So, but I ended up getting out my hammock and getting set up and everything, and getting out my camp stove and cooking dinner on it for the first time and doing all that cool stuff I really look forward to. But I brought way more fuel than I needed for my stove. I overpacked fuel.
Right.
That was one thing I learned. And I've since moved on to a different camp stove because I found out that sterno gel plus desert wind equals hard to cook on. So I've since moved to one of those little, I guess I forget what the camp fuel is, but you got the canister and the thing spins on, and it's got a built-in lighter, and it just burns constant, and you don't care about the wind.
Right.
But the first time that sterno stove, which the old collapsible Army-Navy surplus,
Yeah.
skip that.
Yeah.
Don't bother with that. Other stuff that I overpacked on was just things that I thought I might need that I never did, like a shovel to bury feces. I packed a plastic. You get it at any camp store. It's an orange plastic shovel, yay big, to bury feces with.
Doo-doo shovel.
Skip the doo-doo shovel. You don't need a feces shovel out west.
Once you're in there with the doo-doo, you want to put that back on your bike somehow?
I just thought,
you got pictures, right? You got some pictures?
I have it, yeah. I thought I might be in a pardon the phrase, but I thought I might be in a pinch somewhere and need to bury if I were a really primitive campsite. Most of the campsites you're going to find now that are going to be on a map are going to be improved campsites, so they have bathrooms and showers, so you're not going to need to bury feces. You can skip that. And if you do have to, just poke a hole in the ground with a stick, maybe kick your poop in there, and then bury it, and recover it, and you'll be fine. So I didn't need that. Clothing. I thought I would change clothes every other day. False. On the road, you get stinky, you smell bad, you're covered in sweat, you get rained on, you get dried off. Sometimes I was just, frankly, so tired at the end of the riding day, I didn't want to bother with taking a shower or changing clothes. You wake up the next day and you go. So I packed way too many clothes. I packed just the right amount of food. My goal was to eat one meal a day on the road. So I packed granola bars and instant coffee for breakfast, and canned food and peanut butter crackers for dinner. Now I just packed Cliff Bars because they're really good. They're very filling. So I always take those. The coffee I take is the Starbucks Via, which I don't know if you've tried that or not.
No.
It comes in a little package about this big. Looks kind of like what a Crystal Light would be. The little package you tear up and you add it to a bottle of water.
Yeah.
This is just coffee, but it's so finely ground you can shake it up in milk or cold water or hot water and it just turns to coffee.
Wow.
So instead of having to crank up my stove and make a hot pot of coffee, I take my water canteen and fill it with water from the spigot at the campsite, pour the coffee in, a couple of those packets, shake it up, good strong cold coffee from the tap at the campsite.
Cold coffee.
Yeah, I drink the cold coffee. I'm not picky. I don't care. If you want hot coffee, crank up your stove like everybody I know does. I'm the exception. But I packed that good. I packed the food good. At nighttime, used my stove. I also packed a couple cans of Beanie Weenies because some days after a long day of riding, you're not going to want to feel like busting out your stove. You're going to feel like ripping the top off of something and eating it, and Beanie Weenies are not too bad cold.
Passing out.
So, yeah, you just eat and pass out. Or if you imbibe with spirits like I do, sometimes you're halfway imbibed and don't feel like cooking, and you just eat something quick, finish your bottle, and go to sleep.
Right.
So I did
sometimes it's raining and the wind's blowing 50 miles an hour, and
Yep.
even your best stove is probably not going to work too well.
Yes. There are a handful of reasons you want to take something you don't have to cook.
Right.
So that's the stuff I did good on. Another lesson I learned, it is true what they say about the desert being cold at night. It was hotter than hell. I mean, it was literally, when you say you can see the heat coming off, you could see the heat everywhere you looked. Normally it's in the distance. I could see it in front of me out there. It was 100, I mean, it was hot in the desert. So when I went to sleep that night, I laid in my hammock and just wrapped my hammock over me, no sleeping bag. 2 or 3 in the morning, I woke up shivering in my hammock and had to stumble out of my hammock and go find my sleeping bag out of my pack. So that was lesson learned. It does get cold. So we woke up and continued on, and I'm trying to think of any real big highlights. We saw Billy the Kid's grave, which is really cool, and I think fort somewhere middle of nowhere. I mean, it literally is. You pull off a road with nothing on it and go 10, 15 miles on a road with nothing on it, and then out of the middle of nowhere comes Billy the Kid's grave, which has a little museum and a gift shop. And
of course.
And I think, of course it is. Middle of nowhere, nothing there but a small graveyard with a huge gift shop and museum. But I think it's ironic that Billy the Kid's grave, his tombstone's been stolen, I think, twice.
Wow.
So when you go to the graveyard, it is inside of a steel cage, bolted to the ground.
No more tombstone heists.
No more tombstone heists. But I think I appreciate the irony of even in death, he is behind bars.
Right.
So we saw that. I was 29 at the time, and we went in July. So Brandon had said, well, for your birthday, I'll spring for us a room in Vegas.
Yeah.
So we got into Vegas, which was surprisingly motorcycle friendly.
Yeah.
Everywhere was really cool. Nobody had a problem. They're like, yeah, put your bikes in the deck. There's cameras. They'll be safe. No problem. So we unloaded our bikes, went and checked in, and we had been on the road. We were sweaty. We were stinky, covered in road grime and stuff. And we walk into this super nice hotel lobby with our backpacks on our backs, just like I said, sweating, stinking, and filthy.
Right.
And the guy behind the counter it didn't faze him a bit. We stayed at the Tropicana, I think was the name of it, but they got us checked in, and we went and put our bags up and immediately changed our swimsuits, went to the pool. The waitress came out with a clipboard, and I immediately thought, oh shit, what did we do? We haven't been here 20 minutes yet. She was taking our drink order, which was cool. Yeah. So we swam and drank beer, and then that night we went on the strip and hung out, and woke up the next morning, my 30th birthday, and rode into California. I remember those things I remember well, and then we looped through California into Utah.
Yep.
And we did Hoover Dam too.
Yeah.
I forgot about Hoover Dam, which was really cool. It was a big dam. We did the dam. But we went to Utah, and that was really, for me, the most memorable part of the trip.
Yeah.
Because you literally get to a point in Utah where there's a road that does this and this and this and all over the place, and it's all kick-ass. It's only one road. You look in either direction, and all you see is desert. I mean, you did Utah, right? So all you see is desert the whole way, and it is pretty much, for me, this is the most beautiful, amazing, breathtaking riding I've ever done, and it's exactly why I came out west. There was one point where we got up to kind of what they call the Baby Grand Canyon, where it's a huge canyon. You can just see for miles, and where you are, you can see in the distance a tiny little town, and you can follow the road to where it goes down and connects. So we stayed up there for a while and took pictures and BS around for a little bit and just kind of enjoyed being there in it. And then when we left, we actually took that road down and snaked and stopped in that small town for beer and gas, and which was really cool because then you could look up and see where you'd been. Yeah, it was really, really, really neat. And then we camped out in Utah, which was totally kick-ass because we had a fire pit and we were able to just hang out, and we stopped and got liquor, and we just had a great time BSing and catching up around the campsite there, and rode more the next day and rode a bunch more, and I think I've pretty much covered most of the highlights. The other thing I'll tell you is, if you go to a campsite that says beware there is a bear, don't stay there. we went to a series of camps. There was this mountain, and there were 3 campsites going up the mountain, each a few miles apart.
Now, where was this?
This was still in Utah. This was on close. This was close to the border.
Like southern.
Yeah. So going up the mountain, there were 3 campsites. So each one we stopped at, it said, you know, bear warning, camp at your own risk.
Yeah.
Well, we ain't staying here.
Right.
So we go to the next one, bear warning. We ain't staying here. So we go over to the next one, bear warning. I say, hey, look, I know we plan to camp tonight. Let's go get a hotel. So we went and got a hotel, and I talked to the woman on the counter. I said, you know, we were going to camp out, but there's so many bear warnings. She's like, well, there really hasn't been a bear up there for about a year. But the last bear that was there reached into a tent and grabbed a little boy out. So now the signs stay posted year round. So if you see campsites with bear warnings in Utah, you might want to.
Or bring the bear a snack like a young child.
Like a young child, yes.
That way you're good.
Have you ever seen bear mace?
I don't know that I have. Does it look like human mace?
No. Brandon and his wife do a ton of camping, and she is very bear afraid.
Conscious. Yeah.
Very bear conscious. And they make a thing called a bear bell. Have you ever seen this?
No.
You should get one, because if you're going to be camping on a motorcycle, in addition to your Hooters gift card, you need a bear bell. What it is, it's a little bell with a Velcro strap that you just attach to your pack, and it has a little magnet to silence the thing inside.
Right.
And what it's supposed to do, the noise is supposed to intimidate the bear from coming to you. Now, if you told me that a little jingling bell would keep a grizzly bear away, I'd probably tell you you're full of shit. I'd buy one, and I'd keep it on my pack, but I would also, if I were going to go really deep in the woods, I'd buy some bear mace.
Right.
And, you know, human mace is like a little thing that'll fit on your keychain.
Right.
And you just, pepper spray them.
Pepper.
Bear mace, fire extinguisher size. Yeah. I mean, you almost need two hands for it.
Volume and pressure, because you want to stand off.
And the mace inside, apparently if you hit a man in the face with it, he may be permanently blinded. It is no baloney.
Well, you don't want to blow it in the wind either.
Okay. You better make sure that the bear means business if you hit him with the bear mace, because you may end up, depending on your aim or the wind, blind in one or both eyes, or blind one of your co-campers. But we split off on our way back, and he went elsewhere to go hiking. I had to be back. It was a 9-day trip. And I came through some really awesome stuff. I went through Colorado.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to even talk about how green Arizona was. Like the pines in Arizona, we went through the mountains in Arizona. It was amazing. Yeah. It was a blast out there. Colorado was awesome. You would be down here sweating to death.
Right.
And then you go through these mountain passes where you start climbing, and you get chilly.
Yeah.
Almost where you want to stop and put a coat on.
Oh, yeah.
And then 20 minutes later, you're sweating to death again.
Right.
That was totally awesome. I went through Oklahoma. It was okay.
Really? You must have ridden through the okay part.
I rode through the okay. Oklahoma and Kansas they're kick-ass, but it's green fields, blue skies, and road, and nothing else. I was riding through Oklahoma. I hadn't seen another car, a building, nothing but road, grass, and sky for half an hour. I get to the state line, pull the bike off the road, go sit by the sign, set my camera up on top of my pack, take a picture. No cars, no motorcycles. I stand there for a while, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll sit here and wait and see exactly how long it takes for another car to come by. So I just sit there at the sign waiting and looking at my watch and just kind of, fiddle farting around, getting lost inside my own head, and nothing. Just sitting there waiting, just nothing but me and the breeze, and look at my watch, and it's been about 25 minutes. Nobody. So now it's been a solid hour since I've seen anybody. I say, the hell with this, I'm not waiting all day. I get back on my bike and go, and it literally is like another 20 minutes before another car passed me, and then after that, not again. And it's windy. Oklahoma and Kansas I got there, and I stopped, and it was blowing like hell. And if it's blowing like hell around here, you think, well, there's a storm coming, or we're going to get hit. I asked somebody, I said, are we going to be okay? I mean, do I need to batten down the hatches or try and find shelter? And she just kind of laughed at me and said, this is what you get year-round all the time. Right. Because it's so flat and open. Right. So came back, stopped at a Tasty Freeze in Missouri, the only Tasty Freeze I've ever seen. So I started to understand John Cougar Mellencamp a little bit better once I ate there, and came home. But it was a kick-ass trip. I learned to pare down my pack. I learned to pack less of what I thought I needed, less clothing, less gear. Buy a good atlas. Don't skimp on the atlas. My first trip out, I had a shitty atlas. I went back to Books A Million and spent the money on a good atlas that has scenic byways marked. You want to do that. campsites, points of interest. Buy a big ass atlas that you can see stuff on, and buy yourself a good waterproof bag for the atlas, and that's money well spent. If you're going to do any type of real cross-country riding, I made the mistake the first time, went cheap. When I went to Canada, I made sure I bought a good atlas and a good waterproof bag to do that trip. Worth its weight in gold.
I wonder, it would be nice if we had a room full of people to discuss paper versus GPS, because I'm a GPS guy, but I absolutely see the value in that paper. In fact, I bought a map when I crossed over into Utah, and I didn't even get the full use out of it, because it was the ability to just look at something that's this big, and you can't zoom in details, you can't see street views, you can't do a lot of things, but just the ability, I guess that primitive thing that men have, at least, that to be able to touch something.
So you went out west. All you took was a GPS. You didn't take an atlas.
Yeah, nothing.
But you don't find that limiting?
The experience that I was looking for is more of an explorer and less of a tourist. So I didn't go. I had some things in mind that I wanted to see, and some of the things that I saw, I wished I didn't see now. Yellowstone being one of them, I wished I would have completely bypassed that. And I don't know how many people. Yeah,
disappointing, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's not the disappointment was not in the scenery and the attractions. The disappointment was in the Disneyland atmosphere.
Yeah, the overblown tourism of all.
Assholes stopping in the middle of a highway to take a freaking picture of the bison that were everywhere. Yeah. But yeah, these bison were more particular, and I've got to stop and take a picture. So everybody else has got to wait till I'm done taking a picture.
I feel the same way about Hoover Dam.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about Niagara Falls.
Really?
They are so blown up and over touristy, you almost can't enjoy them.
Right. You're tripping.
Because there's no. You think about like the Little Grand Canyon I saw, or whatever it was in Utah. You just pull up to it. There's nobody there. There's no guardrails. There's no souvenir shop. Right. There's no gift shop. There's no admission fee. You want to go look at Niagara Falls, you got to pay $20 to park. Not to eat, not to get a souvenir, to park and walk and look at the falls.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we should start doing. Places to avoid when you're touring. Places to completely avoid.
I'm not sad that I went, but it kind of hurt me in my soul a little bit to think about the fact that these natural wonders are being so corrupted with. You take something so beautiful and you build a bunch of gaudy shit around it. To me, it kind of cheapens it.
Well, I didn't really see that in Yellowstone. It was just the people. It was I mean, it was like going to a football game, I mean, it was just, you were stumbling over people, and the beauty was there. My only thing was, I didn't want to turn around and go the way I came. I want to keep riding, but to get out of that chaos, I had to ride 2 hours of trying to weave in and out of, the tourists. Yeah. And it became wow, how did I get in here? And there's only one, there was two ways out. One was north. It was a little bit further north than I wanted to go. And it was just a panic. I got the one of the few times that I was, actually, I think the only time where I felt like, like I'm in the middle of downtown traffic, trying to get home or get to wherever I'm going. It was I think the only time that I was just completely uncomfortable, and how the hell, why did I screw up? And surrounded by beauty, I probably should have just said, there's a dirt road. I'm going. Yeah,
because what bike did you take out there?
I took the V-Strom, which there was nothing in that park that possibly could have slowed me down.
If you had a GPS and a V-Strom, you absolutely should have said, the hell with this.
I was in panic mode already. I'd already decided this is, I'm in the middle of Disney World, and
I'm not that.
Kids.
I have a GPS. I mean, I have a GPS app on my phone, but can you look at maps and kind of look at roads and
It's hard. It's hard because the screen is that big, and that's that's the hard part. Is you're doing this.
That's where I think
I want to go from here to here. You can't see that relationship.
That's where I think I would. Okay, I used to have a little crappy brick phone, and before I took my trip out there, I said, "Look, I'm getting a phone that is an iPod, a camera, and a GPS, and a phone all in one. So instead of having to carry 4 separate things, I can carry one that does everything I need, and that's what I did. And I'm glad I did that because I had everything without having to pack a ton of crap. But I still said, even though I'm going to have a GPS on here, I still want my Atlas with me because I don't want to be doing this and that. And there's also places where we were going, you're going to have reception.
Right.
You know, and if you get boogered or messed up, an Atlas is there. And like you said, looking at a screen this big versus looking at something that folds out. I mean, and my Atlas is, I mean, it's the size of my torso. It's big. The map.
Where do you put it?
Okay.
Let's go back to you're riding what?
At the time, I was riding a 2002 Harley Davidson Super Glide.
And we're going to post pictures of that.
Yeah,
too.
we can do that. And I'll give you the link. We can put the link up to the account where all the pictures are from this trip. So
it's going to go right here.
Yeah.
Right here. No, right in between this. Yeah.
So, what I do is I took a camping backpack because I knew there were going to be parts where I'd need to hike to the campsites we were going to. So a camping backpack, I had a tall sissy bar.
Yep.
And I take 3 bungee cords, go around the pack, top, middle, bottom. Bungee net around the bungee cords, top, middle, bottom, six hooks. And then 2 more bungee cords for the waterproof Atlas bag around the back. And I keep it on whatever state we're in.
Yeah.
So if I'm like, oh shit, I don't know where I am, pull over under some shade, walk around to the back and say, okay, this is this road and I'm looking for this road. And the other thing I did was the same thing that you've seen me do that Springer and other guys have started doing, where you take a strip of
the tape.
Yeah. The Super Glide that I had was actually painted in chalkboard paint.
I think I read that.
It was flat black chalkboard paint, and I carry chalk with me. And every morning when I wake up at camp, I said, this is where I'm going to go. Here's the turns I'm going to make, and kind of loosely plan my route and write it all down on the chalkboard tank.
Right.
And then when you make a turn, you just take your thumb and wipe it.
Okay.
So when you look at your tank, you don't have to scroll through and see where you're at. You just wipe the turns you've made, and that way at the end of the day, you get there. And if you decide,
have you patented that? I mean, is that your exclusive idea, or can somebody else spray paint chalkboard?
If you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart and go to the paint section in a rattle can, it's chalkboard paint. If you're looking for a flat black paint, it is the best flat black paint I've ever found because it's made to be a chalkboard. It goes on thicker. Yeah. It's more durable. It's just the best thing ever. If you're going on a cross country trip, to me it was invaluable. Like I said, it was just, I always thought it was a cool idea because if I want flames on my tank today, I wake up, get out my daughter's sidewalk chalk, and I've got flames on my tank. If I want a skull and crossbones, if I'm feeling in a bad mood and I want to write FU on both sides, whatever I want. Or if I'm going from here to California back in 9 days with an Atlas, I can write down every direction the whole way. So, long story short, no, I haven't patented it, but I probably should.
It's probably a good idea.
By the time you watch this, royalties. But so that's what I did, and that's why the Atlas works best for me. And then having it on the back is just, it's convenient. I would go through and at the end of the day and highlight the routes that I took so I could see where I've been. So if I ever wanted to, when I went back out there, if I wanted to go back and look, I could look back and see where we had gone. But that worked really well for me. A GPS might work for you. I think it would be too limiting.
It is limiting. I'll tell you, the best GPS that I've ever used and probably will ever use is the GPS on my phone. Comes free with an Android phone.
What,
and it
Telenav?
No, it's Navigator.
Oh, okay.
Which it's just a free app that comes. I guess it's probably a Google app. I think, pretty sure. You got Google Maps. You got the Navigator. Both have their flaws. Both have their great things. The best thing is that it uses Google Maps. The worst thing is it doesn't really work real well without a data signal. So you can use it, but it's not going to be real accurate, and you're not going to be able to get close-ups. You can't get street view, but it is an amazing application. You can't really use it in the woods. So
the one I use is called I think it's called Telenav.
Yeah.
And it's really good too. Free app.
Yeah.
It's really good. Hey, you get 10 more wings? Just hot. Another beer pitcher maybe?
I'm going to go stick my head in the toilet. I'll be right back.
I'm going to sit here.
Yeah, talk. Please talk.
Yeah, gear is one of those crazy things because just like we're talking about the difference between an Atlas and a GPS, every single person that you talk to is going to have an opinion, and something that works completely great for you, like an Atlas, may not work good for the next guy who likes a GPS. I've found the best thing to do is trial and error on short trips. If you've got a piece of gear and you want to try it out and see how well it would work for you going from here to California, take yourself a day trip or a weekend trip or a night trip. Like if you've got a new sleeping bag and you want to see if it's really rated and will handle the temperatures that they say that it will, go, ride the Cheehaw, pay a few bucks for a campsite, sleep overnight, and see if you're comfortable. If you want to try a new stove, you don't. I mean, I guess you could just try that in the backyard. You could try either one of those in the backyard, but it's more fun. It's more fun, and you'll have a better experience if you go out and actually test it in the field. Field test it. You'll enjoy doing stuff like that, and that's always worked really well for me. The hammock that I use, I field tested it before I went really far with it to make sure that it would meet all my needs. The system I use for rain protection, I tested that. Any of those things that you get and you want to field, or you want to see if they'll work for you on a long trip, make sure you field test them before you go. Make sure you know how your gear works. You don't be stuck in a campsite in the middle of the night and not know how to operate your stove.
Oh hell no!
Make sure you test your stuff before you go. Don't get out to a campsite and realize you don't know how to put your tent together because it's pitch black because you rode further than you thought you'd had to get to a campsite, and then you don't know what the hell you're doing in the dark. Which is another reason I like the hammocks, because you sling 2 straps around a tree, you click in, and you're done.
Bone dead simple, as long as you have trees. But I've decided that I'm going to carry my little one-man for those times when I don't have trees, or, well, I don't know. It's my bone dead simple one-man tent is a whole lot more complex to put together than my. I mean, I've got beaners on the ends of my. I mean, I'm set up and in my hammock in less than a minute.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hammocks are like, if you got a bad back, you don't like sleeping on the ground, or you just want a good experience, if you like getting rocked like a damn baby when you go to bed, hammocks are the way to go.
My big fear with the hammocks was initially I'm a back and side sleep, or stomach and side sleeper. So I sleep on my side. That's how I go to sleep, and usually I wind up on start on my side, wind up on my stomach by the end of the morning. I can't sleep in my back typically, but I've got a ASAM hammock which allows me to stretch out straight, roll around. It's not as easy to roll around in a hammock as it is a bed, but you can definitely get comfortable.
You get the hang of it, yeah.
You can get comfortable, and especially if you're tired, you will go to sleep.
Oh, sure. So tell me about your trip out west. When did you go? What did you do?
I went the end of August last year, and that's the best advice that I had from the people that I talked to was you won't be able to get through those passes. And the passes I went through, I'm trying to remember the name of the loop, Alpine Loop, which is basically county roads. They're fairly well maintained, but they're rugged. I mean, there are big rocks in the middle of it. And during the winter, it's 20 feet deep in snow, and it takes 8-9 months for the stuff to thaw out. Sure. And my information, the best information that I got, or at least what I've been told, I don't know. I want to stretch my time out next time I go out there and say either go up there late September or end of spring sometime to see if it's really I can't get through because there's 10 feet of snow still on the ground or what. But I wanted to make the Alpine Loop, and everybody said August is your best bet. Well, it worked out pretty well for me. I went I did an iron butt to West Texas, and then
nice.
New Mexico, which was unbelievable. It was hot in the lower southern part, but
how hot was it when you went through Arizona?
I did not do Arizona. The furthest west I went was Nevada, which it was pretty hot. I mean, everything in the out of the mountains was hot. It was August.
Yeah. So, it was. I think it was 100 in teens when we went through August. I mean, when we went through Arizona.
Arizona, yeah. I can imagine.
I was just curious if you had the same.
I think I would probably, if I went through Arizona, I would probably go some other time of the year and take a tent. Because you know me, I've had my bad experiences in the hammock as much as we've talked about it. If you're hanging in the air and you don't have a really good sleeping bag and it drops down into the 20s and 30s and you're shaking your head like you have a different opinion.
Continue. I do. We'll talk. I'll let you. I apologize. I should have let you finish before I crapped all over what you were saying. If you're in the air, wind blows.
Yeah. The biggest experience you could have is take your bag out of your hammock and camping in the summer in Alabama, you probably should never have a sleeping bag, because I can't imagine it getting that cold. 60 degrees is when you start getting cold. To me, hanging in a nylon sack at 60 degrees, you will feel when you lay down in a hammock, your back or whatever is touching the nylon is going to get cold real quick, and you'll feel it. It almost feels like it's wet. And I'm guessing it's just because that's where the wind goes through the easiest. It hits
Here's your hammock. Wind here, wind here.
Yeah.
And if it's cold, cold here, cold here.
That's not my experience.
Really?
It's not my experience at all. Just like if you're sitting on the ground, you've got insulation on the ground. So there's nothing really that's going to be whipping under you on the ground. You'll feel it on the top. But my experience is, if you're going to get much colder on your bottom, whatever's touching the hammock, as in apparently, at least my hammock, that's where all the wind goes.
You said in the wintertime, though, you got cold in your hammock.
Wintertime, no, I haven't done I've done almost no camping in the winter.
Oh, I thought you said that one time you had camped out and it was cold and it rained.
This was my worst experience in my hammock to date is Tetons. I ride into the Tetons, it's 70, 80 degrees. At night, it dropped down to 36.
Right.
And I'm in my sleeping bag. I knew it was going to get cold. We're outside. Yeah.
Okay. And you got cold.
I got cold. I got up at 3 a.m., got my riding jacket on, walked around, tried to regain some heat, got back in, zipped up, and that cold robbed me of my body heat. So I really didn't have a choice. I had to get up, and I packed up and went to the campground and went into the laundromat and spent some time in there.
In the morning? In like 3 a.m.?
Yeah, 4:30. I think I was in the laundromat. And,
okay.
But yeah, that's. I want to see somebody else hanging, because you're not the only one that said that.
I have not had a problem. Okay, first of all, I use a Eagle Nest Outfitters ENO hammock.
Okay.
The material that it is made of provides a very small level of insulation from cold. If you're standing outside versus standing in the or laying in your hammock, you will notice a difference. And I use a double nest, which is actually made for 2 people, but I'm a pretty big guy. But there's enough material there that when I'm in the hammock, you saw me in it, I can pull it over myself like a blanket, so I have insulation on top and bottom. Now, I've camped in Buck's Pocket when it was in the 30s and been comfortable, but it takes preparation. You need the hammock, one, a good sleeping bag, and I use one called, I think it's, Mountain Outdoors or Outdoor Specialty. They make one called a Flip. It's got one side that's rated at 1 degree and another side that's rated at another degree. So what I did was I put the colder, the one that would withstand the more cold on the top. Before I got in my sleeping bag, I took a Mexican blanket that I got in Mexico on my honeymoon, and I layer it inside the hammock.
Okay.
So I've got a base layer inside I've got the hammock bottom, Mexican blanket base layer.
You're really talking about you're prepping. You're prepping for a trip like that. I was not prepared.
You were prepared.
Yeah,
well, yeah, I'm just saying.
That's the thing you've got to go back to, because you can camp in dead freaking winter in a hammock.
Yes.
But you've got to have
preparation.
The gear and the stuff that I've seen. It looks like a real lightweight external sleeping bag that goes around the outside of your hammock.
I've seen what you're talking about. Or they make those that go around your sleeping bag. If you've got a sleeping bag that's rated for higher temperatures and you want to make it to go lower temperatures, you can buy a liner that goes inside that'll actually make it warmer.
Well, I was carrying a 30-degree bag, so that that was an issue.
Yeah, you happened into a bad situation because you didn't know.
Well, yeah. But I mean, yeah, that's how we learn, I guess. Learn the hard way, or.
It's all about preparation. Brandon told me on the road, he said, you are more prepared for your first cross-country trip than I ever was for mine. But I was over-prepared. I could have made my pack much lighter, done much better, been easier on the load if I would have known. But that's why you do trial and error stuff, and you try and work it out, and you figure it out.
And, in the summer, when you're doing the environments that that we did, you're talking about extremes. You're not
Yeah.
talking about, sub-zero stuff, but 30 degrees to 90 degrees is a pretty damn big range.
That's huge.
So how do you
I think
prepare for that?
I'm not great at math, but I think that's at least 60 degrees difference, right?
Right. But I like the idea of the one-man tent. I mean, I haven't done that. I like the idea of having the option. My hammock fits into a bag about like that. The rain tarp that goes with it is just a little bit bigger, but can compress a lot more. And then my one-man, so I can have basically complete camping supplies and something that would fit. I generally keep all my camping gear and the stuff that keeps me warm and dry in one case, and then.
But you run saddlebags too, though, right?
I haven't camped much off of this one, but I think the V-Strom is my favorite because it's got enough dry storage for all my stuff.
That's cool.
That's a big deal, and then I just throw a duffel bag in there, carry everything else. So.
When I went to Canada with my brother-in-law, he packed a huge duffel bag that just laid over the side of his back seat, and one of the things he took was a kid's tent.
Yeah.
And he laid in it diagonally.
Yeah.
But it was just a cheapie he got at Walmart or wherever, just some shelter.
Tents are getting so cheap now. It's like,
yeah,
I can't imagine why everybody doesn't have a tent, or at least a small.
I've got a hand-me-down that works just fine. It fits me and my wife and probably the kids too, if we wanted it to. But it was a hand-me-down. It was free. But it's big though. It's about the size of a camp chair. When you had to, I actually keep it in one of those camp chair bags.
Well,
but I never take it with me.
I take a chair. I take a little collapsible chair.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't always set it up, but
I just sit
it's good if you're out in the middle of the woods. I don't like sitting on the ground. Number one, it's not comfortable. It's not relaxing. If you sit up against a tree, odds are you're going to get bug bit.
I just sit up in my hammock and hang out.
That's another use for that.
Doubles as a chair.
But what if you got a fire going? You don't want your hammock anywhere close to a fire. So
I sit on the ground,
yeah.
or a stump.
I'm not a
or
ground
a rock.
guy. I'm not a ground guy. I will give up that much space for my chair and the weight. So yeah, I probably pack too much stuff, but part of it is the experience too. If you go and you're miserable, you're sitting on the ground and you're getting eaten up by bugs, and what the fuck.
Have you ever tried those bug bands, the little wristbands that are supposed to keep mosquitoes and bugs away? I bought some.
I can't imagine anything but other than spray keeping me alive because I get eaten up as soon as I come.
I thought about getting one of those off fans. They show them on TV. Have you ever seen one in person?
It sounds like a.
It's on TV.
Voodoo.
On TV they show it. And it's like a little off clip-on fan, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh, it clips onto you.
Yeah, it just clips on your belt loop or whatever.
I'm just thinking of the tiki torches.
It's, I on TV I saw. I was like, oh, that was cool, like a little thing. It's like I went to the store to see it. Bigger than my head. It was huge. I didn't want that, so I've got these bands now. I'm gonna try the bands.
I'm always open to people that swear by stuff, but I can't remember how many people told me about skin so soft. Oh, it works great. Shit, it's fucking lotion. Don't kid yourself. The shit does not work. At least on the mosquitoes that like me, they go plunging straight through the goo into my skin.
When I go to the coast next week, I will pack off with me in case the band is shit city, which it very well may be.
I found a little tube of it's maybe got 100 squirts in there, but it's a tube. I mean, you can put it in your shirt pocket like a pin.
Nice. Yeah, I carry in my pack. I carry all that stuff. I carry like goody powders.
Yeah, I think I saw your pack. You've got a nice little kit.
Yeah, man, I've got I try and it's like a Boy Scout. I try and plan for everything. Just think ahead. You never know what's going to happen to you out there. So I try and really think about it. I've tried to really put a lot of thought into what I pack and what I take. Because it's all about comfort. Like, for you might need to take a camp chair. But you might not need to take, or you might need to take a different lotion out. It's all about making it work for you.
Q-tips. They'll be in every pack because I can't, my ears get wet. It's like, and I can't get my fingers down in there, so.
Sewing kit. You take one of those?
I don't think I even own one.
No.
I used to keep a sewing kit because shit comes undone.
Yeah.
But
I got a little sewing travel kit about yay big. It's got some pre-threaded needles in there.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
I'm a terrible seamstress too. So.
But if you're on the road, it doesn't have to be pretty. I mean, you're not making a dress for somebody. You're just putting your pocket back together or something.
You never know where you're going to have to suture your buddy up to. So
I usually use dental floss for that because it holds better. I found that the thread in the kit's not very good with flesh. The dental floss that's thicker, it doesn't thread quite as easily, but it holds much better.
Have a big wrench so you can knock them out, anesthesia.
Yeah. That's usually what the bobble is for.
Yeah.
You pour a little in the wound, and then you're giving a shot, pour some in the wound, and start stitching.
What about lessons learned? The things that you don't want to do, maybe the things that you do want to do.
Just in terms
in your next trip. Since this is the time everybody's making plans or getting ready to go, what are some things that we can tell people that?
For my bachelor party, several years ago, we planned a trip to go stay in Perdido Key, which is right outside of Orange Beach and Gulf Shores area. We'd go hit all the clubs in Pensacola and eat dinner, hang out, all that stuff, and come back and have a good time. There was a threat of a tropical storm, Hurricane Gustav. You may have heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a threat of a tropical storm, don't go to the coast.
Good advice.
We were down there when they decided to evacuate the city and had to ride motorcycles back through a torrential downpour with I-65 being contraflow, which means running north in both directions. Scariest riding I've ever done. Never again.
Yeah.
Now, when I went to Canada, there was a storm off the coast, and we were originally planning on going up the coast, Maine, Canada, Buffalo, down, but because of the storm, we just reversed our route. So, and it ended up working out pretty good for us. Like I said, the big thing to me is an atlas. The first atlas I had was terrible. This one has, and think about how far you can realistically get, and see if you're going to camp. Don't just find one campsite and say I'm going to that campsite, because it may be closed, it may be full.
Oh yeah.
There's 100 things that could happen. Try and find a few that are grouped together within a few miles. That way, if you hit it, go. And don't be so rigid in your planning that you can't say, if I want to do motel, campsite, that I don't say, well, I'm supposed to be camping tonight, so I'm going to camp. If you have to do motel, campsite, or campsite, motel, be flexible. It's a motorcycle trip like that should be all about fun and the journey and adventure, not about itineraries and scheduling. And don't be afraid to go off the beaten path and see something you think looks kick-ass.
Definitely do that.
Absolutely, without a doubt, make sure you do that. And anything you hear about that's cool, that might be halfway interesting, like the biggest ball of twine in the world or whatever, go check that out. You'll stumble onto stuff by going off the beaten path, like the cross garden, the car bumper chicken.
Yeah.
Things like that are not on the interstate. Don't take the interstate. Don't take a motorcycle trip on the interstate. Go back roads. There's so much kick-ass shit to see in back roads, small town America. And that's what it's all about. All the kick-ass stuff that I've seen on motorcycle trips was places like that. It wasn't on the interstate. I would take as many back roads as possible. Don't be afraid to stop at stuff.
Don't be afraid to wander around, especially if it's within your time frame and your overall goals. One thing I've learned over the past few years, especially on this last trip, find the canyons, find the rivers, and find the roads that run along those canyons and rivers or ridges.
Yeah.
You'll never miss the spectacular stuff if you're not afraid to go explore those places. Even if somebody didn't say go down Highway 29, even if they don't say that, odds are really good if it's following a river or if it's on a ridge or in a canyon or something like that. You're gonna. I mean, if you like twisty roads, and vistas and things like that, go find those places because there's tons of them out there that nobody knows about. Who knew about the dragon 50 years ago that didn't live up in that area?
Yeah, nobody. And look at it now.
Right. It's overrun. Don't tell anybody when you find it. Shoot me a PM.
Tell me.
Yeah, right.
Tell me and him. That's it. We'll come meet you. We'll all go ride and we'll have a kick-ass time.
Right.
But
before everybody else.
A good atlas too will have the scenic byways marked. If you have a choice between this back road and the scenic byway back road, take the scenic byway back road every time. And we've talked about...
Unless it's something like the Blue Ridge where 45 is just too slow for you.
I don't go 45 on the Blue Ridge, but...
Well, they'll get you now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a big, hefty fine.
It's a national ticket.
Like $250 or
Yeah, it's a lot.
Crazy.
We've talked about this before. Northeast. If you're traveling in the Northeast, allow more time. because there's no wide open spaces up there like there are down here.
We need to make that another show.
Okay.
The Northeast Planning Show, and you can tell me.
Forget I said anything.
Well, no, I think we need to do that though. I want to learn about it before I go, and you can go into great detail there. And
I will bring my atlas so we can show that off, and I can show you the roads I went on that were cool, and we'll talk about it.
So what does that mean? We're like 40 minutes into 34 minutes. That's probably good.
Can I put out a shameless plug?
Sure.
If you want to see a detailed outline and write-up on all the gear that I use, if you go to jbmft.blogspot.com and scroll back and click keyword gear, I'll even see if I can get you a link on here where you can just click it and it'll show you all the gear posts. I go over what I use in my pack, what I pack in my pack, my stove, every single piece of gear I use to outline on my blog. I did a series. It ran for weeks. You can check it out. Send me any questions. You can email me off the blog. Check it out. I'd love to see what you think about it, or if you have anything I can help you with for the trip that you're planning, or that you're planning.
I haven't started planning my trip yet.
What's planned?
I'm just trying to get a bike running so I can.
You need a bike first. That's the most important part of the plan.
I want a bike that gets me there and back without that being the major part of my journey, is getting myself in the bike home.
Brandon was stranded in Casper, Wyoming for like a week and a half when his bike broke down. You don't want that.
No, but I'm wondering maybe if that's part of Brandon's plan, like a gravelly plan. Part of it is breaking down. Part of it is fixing your shit on the road. I'm really not into that.
To each his, I'm not into it either.
Yeah,
I like an old bike and I like having an old bike, but I like riding a newer bulletproof bike on a trip, because if I've got 9 days to get to California and back, I ain't got a week and a half to be stuck in Casper, Wyoming.
And not just that, what's the cost of fixing your bike on the road versus
he had to order a part from Japan.
Yeah.
Shipped from Japan to Casper, Wyoming, where he was.
Count me out. I'll take the I will suffer and ride the newer bike.
I don't think that's suffering. That's me.
There's being cool, and then there's
we all can't be around the world Doug.
Right.
And I'm happy that there's somebody out there to be around the world Doug, so I don't have to be.
Right. I have total respect for the guy, but that's not me. AAA, where are they?
I don't know. So is that it?
I think so. Anything we want to say? We need to go in here and grab us a beer, because obviously it's happening at Hooters.
Special thanks to Hooters and Stan for having us. We're happy that they were so kind to allow us to come here and tape this today. So thank you. Thank you.
They're so awesome.
I wish the waitress had come with our wings and beer, though.
It's about time.
Let's go find her.
All right.